Alien sovereign buried dormant. For 600 years, only a human archaeologist dug deep enough to find her. The diamond-tipped auger shrieked as it struck something unyielding beneath the ochre sands of the Atacama Desert. Blue-white sparks danced in the pre-dawn gloom, flickering across Marcus's taut, dirt-streaked features. The early hour offered no comfort, only cold and the persistent taste of dust at the back of his throat. Marcus's body was wiry now, stripped of softness by 4 relentless months of sunrise to midnight labor. His hands were a map of calluses and healing blisters, and yet his resolve remained carved in granite. Professor Elaine Winter's warning echoed in his mind with every turn of the drill. "You're wasting your life, Marcus. The grant committee's patience is running out." But Marcus, who had spent years unearthing secrets in the world's forgotten corners, was sure there was something here the world had missed. The subsurface scans had shown him a riddle, an anomaly deep beneath the desert, a void 40 meters down where there should have been only endless ancient stone. His colleagues and rivals in academia called him obsessed. Some had laughed outright. None of it mattered. Marcus pressed on. The battered aluminum door of their research shelter banged open, spilling a wedge of yellow lamplight onto the sand. Ben Carter trudged out, clutching a mug of instant coffee that steamed in the frigid morning air. His jacket was zipped to the chin, his hair sticking up in unrepentant tufts. "The drill's straining again," Ben called, voice muffled by the wind and the roar of the machine. "It's like the Earth's fighting us," Marcus replied, his eyes never leaving the spinning depth counter. A bead of sweat, cold as ice, traced a path down his temple. Whatever's down there, it's not eager to be found. Ben watched as the drill howled and juddered, a dying beast on the edge of defeat. Then, without warning, the resistance vanished. The auger lurched, shuddered once, and slid forward with a suddenness that made Marcus's heart leap. "We're through," Marcus breathed, adrenaline lighting his nerves. He stared as the numbers on the depth counter clicked past 40, then stopped at 41. Ben's brow furrowed as he double-checked the readings. 41 meters. Marcus, what did you just open?" Marcus didn't answer. His hands shook as he reached for the inspection camera, fingers stiff from cold and excitement. He lowered the small device into the freshly bored shaft, watching its grainy feed flicker to life on the battered monitor. The lens descended through layers of earth, silt, and fractured stone, then broke through into something entirely alien. A chamber revealed itself on the screen. It was seamless, metallic, its walls etched with intricate geometric patterns that pulsed faintly in the darkness. In the center of the chamber floated a vision so improbable, Marcus felt the world tilt beneath his feet. Suspended in a cocoon of emerald light was a figure, tall, inhuman, and impossibly beautiful. She was unmistakably alien, her skin a lustrous deep green, features both regal and strange. Her eyes, though closed, were fringed with violet lashes. Her hair tumbled in amethyst waves over curved obsidian horns that rose from her brow. The dark armor she wore hugged her form, a subtle interplay of angles and liquid lines. Even in sleep, she radiated command, a being accustomed to ruling, not resting. "Is she alive?" Ben whispered, drawn close by the otherworldly image. Marcus leaned forward, watching the subtle rise and fall of her chest within the cocoon. "I think so. Her chest, it's moving." He studied the woman's face, noting the tranquility there, but also a faint tension at the brow, a shadow of pain or fear. The camera's lens drifted lower, catching a series of glyphs carved into the cocoon's base. Marcus reached out, tracing the symbols on the screen. As his fingertips brushed the outline of each, their meanings unfurled in his mind. Alien thoughts translating into human understanding with an effortless intimacy. Release, awaken, trust. He hesitated only a moment. Then, with a decisive breath, Marcus pressed the glyph marked Release. The cocoon's green glow surged with sudden intensity, casting their faces in emerald fire. Then, Just as abruptly, the light faded, leaving behind only the dim shine of the monitor and the silence of the desert. In the darkness below, the woman's breathing deepened. Her limbs twitched, testing the air. Slowly her eyes opened, brilliant violet, sharp and ancient, cutting through the years as if no time had passed. She spoke, her language a rush of syllables that somehow made sense in Marcus's mind. "How long has it been?" she asked, her gaze unwavering, unafraid. Marcus found his voice. "I can't say for sure. The sediment layers suggest centuries, maybe more." A flicker of sorrow crossed her striking face, but she mastered it, drawing herself upright with a fluid, predatory grace. "You are not of my kind," she observed, her eyes sweeping over Marcus and Ben. "Your species, I do not recognize it." "Human," Marcus replied, voice steady despite the unreality of the moment. "From Earth, this world." "Unlikely," she said, a faint edge of disbelief in her tone. "When my people surveyed this planet, it was barren, no sentient life." Marcus gestured toward the surface, the morning sky just starting to pale. "We evolved after your survey. We're new here." She stepped forward, moving with a confidence that hinted at long-forgotten battlefields and distant stars. "I am Zephyra," she declared, her voice ringing with authority. "Sovereign of the Ninth Accord, sentinel of the celestial gates, keeper of—" The words caught, pain shadowing her eyes. "Keeper of nothing, perhaps." "Marcus," he offered, extending a hand, palm open. "Archaeologist, I dig up the past." Zephyra regarded his hand, curiosity flickering in her eyes. After a moment, she placed her own hand in his. The contact sent a pulse of energy through Marcus, a spark of connection, electric and alive. "You found me," she murmured, wonder softening her voice. "After all this time, you are the first." "I'm persistent," Marcus admitted, a faint self-deprecating smile tugging at his lips. Zephyra's own lips curved in response, her transformation from striking to radiant complete in a single moment. Persistent enough to wake an empire. For the first time since he'd begun his lonely dig, Marcus felt not just hope, but awe, standing at the threshold of something greater than any secret buried in the desert. The hidden chamber became their sanctuary. Its walls, etched with patterns from a civilization long faded, hummed with a presence neither Marcus nor Ben could quite define. Zephyra acclimated to the new world with relentless focus, absorbing English with an intensity that made Marcus feel both studied and exposed. In the pale light of their portable lamps, she listened to audio files, traced her fingers over words in battered textbooks, and questioned everything. For days, Marcus watched her transformation in awe. She adapted with astonishing speed, her mind voracious. Each night, her accent softened, her vocabulary widened, her questions grew sharper. Every answer Marcus gave seemed to spark 10 more inquiries. Ben, overwhelmed by the gravity of their discovery, busied himself cataloging samples and uploading encrypted logs to university servers, leaving Marcus and Zephyra in a growing orbit of their own. One morning, as the wind battered the shelter and the solar array's cables threatened to work loose again, Marcus knelt outside, hands buried in the tangle of wires and sand. Zephyra crouched beside him, the borrowed cargo pants rolling awkwardly above her slender ankles, a stark contrast to the regal composure she brought to every movement. She studied Marcus's hands as he worked, her eyes bright with curiosity. "Your people stumble forward through chaos," Zephyr observed, watching him coax a stubborn connector into place. Her tone was half bemused, half admiring. "We refined each technology before use. No trial, no error. Perfection was expected." Marcus grinned, sweat streaking down his jaw. "Trial and error is our way. Sometimes mistakes are the best teachers." She tilted her head, considering. "And if the mistake is fatal?" "Then someone else learns from it," he said, glancing at her. "Or at least, that's the hope." Zephyra's mouth twitched. She watched the solar array catch the sun, the battery light blinking to life. "I do not understand how you endure such disorder," she said, still studying him as if he might suddenly reveal the secret mechanism of humanity's perseverance. He wiped his hands on his jeans and shrugged. "Who governs your world?" she asked, her tone laced with curiosity and an undercurrent of disbelief. "No one, really," Marcus replied. "Hundreds of countries always arguing. No monarchs, though some act like it. Most of the time it's committees, councils, presidents, prime ministers. A mess, honestly." Zephyra frowned, her brow furrowing as she tried to grasp the concept. "Disorder," she repeated softly, almost to herself. "How do you survive?" "Barely," Marcus replied, half joking, half true. "But we built machines to dig through 40 meters of rock to find you." Her lips parted, a shadow passing through her eyes as old wounds resurfaced. She looked away, the morning sun catching the curve of her horns, the memory of a life lost echoing in the silence between them. "What happened to your people?" Marcus asked, his voice gentle, careful not to press too hard. Zephyra's jaw clenched, her eyes darkening with pain. "War," she said at last. "The Dominion invaded. They demanded surrender or destruction." Marcus felt the hairs rise on his arms. "You refused?" A cold, brittle smile flickered at the corners of her mouth. "I chose patience. My council believed me dead. The Dominion's occupation forces grew complacent. I waited for the right moment." He imagined her, regal and alone in this chamber, letting centuries pass in the hope of reclaiming her world. "You plan to return." "I plan to endure," Zephyr replied, her voice steel beneath velvet. Their eyes met, and in that shared silence, understanding blossomed. She had chosen centuries of sleep over the agony of watching her civilization fall, an act of hope or perhaps defiance. Marcus felt the weight of history settle between them, fragile and immense. 600 years, Marcus said softly, letting the number hang in the air. Zephyra absorbed it like a blow. She didn't flinch, but he saw her hands tighten at her sides. "My council, my friends, my people, all gone," she whispered, the words thick with grief. "Maybe not all," Marcus offered, reaching for hope where little existed. "Others might have hidden too, survivors." Zephyra regarded him with something like surprise, the corners of her lips softening. "You think strategically," she noted, intrigued. "You look for patterns, for possibility, even when none remain." He shrugged, the gesture self-conscious. "It's how I survived grad school," he said, trying to draw a smile from her. A flicker of amusement sparked in her eyes. She leaned closer, the scent of ozone and wildflowers drifting between them, a fragrance that was entirely her own, both familiar and alien. "What patterns do you see between us, Marcus of Earth?" Zephyra's words were low, heavy with meaning that ran deeper than the surface of their conversation. He was acutely aware of the way she lingered near him, of the subtle tension in her shoulders, of the way her eyes softened when he spoke. The way her hand brushed his when they passed tools or shared data tablets, each touch lingering a fraction too long. Something was shifting in the air, a current of energy sparking between them, unpredictable and dangerous. "Dangerous ones," he confessed, his objectivity dissolving beneath her gaze. Zephyra's lips parted, her breath hitching just slightly. "The best discoveries usually are," she whispered, her fingers grazing his cheek, a feather-light caress that sent a jolt of electricity through him. Marcus's heart pounded. The past weeks of isolation, the revelation of the chamber, the impossible reality of Zephyra herself, all of it converged into a single, undeniable truth. They were no longer just an archaeologist and an artifact, but something new, something neither of them fully understood. Zephyra let herself be vulnerable, the armor of her title and duty slipping away. She pressed her palm to his face, her thumb tracing the line of his cheekbone. You do not fear me? She asked, her voice a whisper of wonder and warning. He shook his head, covering her hand with his own. I'd be a fool to, but I'm more afraid of losing this, whatever this is, before I even understand it. Her eyes closed briefly, as if savoring the admission. When she opened them, the violet depths held both sorrow and hope. Your world is chaos, Marcus. Yet you dare to hope. That is dangerous. A wry smile curved his lips. The best discoveries are. The chamber's emerald glow faded into memory, replaced by the soft, trembling light of a new connection. Two worlds, ancient and modern, collided, not in violence, but in the quiet intimacy of understanding and touch. As Zephyra leaned into him, Marcus realized that the bond they were forging was as unprecedented as the artifact that had brought them together. In the hush of the ancient sanctuary, amid the scars of old wars and new beginnings, their bond deepened. A promise that the story of Zephyra and the world she'd awakened to was only just beginning. A mechanical blossom unfurled from the chamber wall, ancient petals of metal unfolding with a hiss, exposing veins of light and humming circuitry. Dust motes shimmered in the illumination, catching on Zephyra's angular features as she moved toward the mechanism with a certainty Marcus could only admire. Her hands, steady and sure, danced across its surface, coaxing secrets from technology that had slumbered through centuries. Symbols lit up beneath her touch, lines of alien script, geometric nodes blooming in sequence. This was never a tomb, Zephyra said, her voice resonant with a new kind of hope. The air vibrated as dormant systems surged to life, casting an aurora of shifting data across the curved ceiling. Holographic maps flared into being, star charts, planetary orbits, a spiral of gold and blue worlds spinning in midair. Data cascaded in rivers of light, pooling above the platform where Marcus stood transfixed. Marcus stared in awe as blueprints, resource grids, and what looked like strands of DNA rotated among constellations and cityscapes. It's a vault, Zephyra continued, her gaze sweeping across the luminous archive. Her hands didn't hesitate. They moved from console to console, activating streams of knowledge, each one richer than the last. A vault for what? Marcus asked, voice barely above a whisper, as if afraid to disturb the miracle unfolding before him. Everything, Zephyra replied. Her tone was matter-of-fact, yet heavy with the gravity of loss. Starship blueprints, resource caches, genetic archives, the entire legacy of the Ninth Accord, all that my people were, all that we hoped to become. The maps shifted, displaying fleets of vessels, encrypted manifestos, endless libraries of memory. Marcus reached out, his hand passing through a projection of a city that might have been Zephyra's home, a memory rendered in shimmering gold. Hidden from the Dominion? Marcus guessed, watching her face for a flicker of confirmation. Zephyra's expression tightened, anguish surfacing in her violet eyes. Hidden from everyone, she corrected softly. Do you see what I am, Marcus? Not a ruler in exile, a survivor who slept while my people perished. I hid our future in the dark and waited while the light went out above me. Marcus stepped closer, feeling the weight of it, the responsibility, the despair. The room seemed to shrink, the humming of ancient circuits pressing in on him. You're a tactician who played the long game, he said. You made a choice your council couldn't. Zephyra's jaw tensed, her gaze never leaving the data spiraling overhead. How many were meant to wake you? Marcus asked gently. She hesitated, letting her fingers rest atop a control node pulsing with faint green light. My council promised to return, she said at last. 5 years, maybe 10. We had a plan for resistance, but this vault, it was designed to evade even our own technology. Only someone with primitive tools could break through the lockouts. Anyone advanced enough would trip the fail-safes and lose everything. Marcus looked around, understanding dawning as he surveyed the battered drill casing, the hand tools scattered across the chamber floor. So you needed someone persistent enough to dig by hand, someone who wouldn't even know to trigger the alarms. Not ignorant, Zephyra said, gratitude shining through her exhaustion. She turned to face him fully, her armor catching the shifting lights of the archive. Determined, willing to do what others forgot or dismissed as impossible. You risked everything to uncover a secret you couldn't have imagined. For a heartbeat, neither spoke. The hum of the vault deepened, ancient systems stirring with purpose, as if sensing their awakening. Marcus felt the magnitude of history pressing down, a story so vast it threatened to swallow his own. Ancient signals stirred, flickering out across frequencies Marcus's own equipment couldn't even register. He felt, rather than heard, a pulse ripple outward. "What happens now?" he asked quietly. Zephyr's shoulders straightened, but her gaze grew distant. "Now my awakening sends a beacon across the stars," she replied. "If any of my allies remain, they'll come. So will my enemies. The Dominion will sense it. Others may answer too. Scavengers, opportunists. The galaxy will know their sovereign has returned." The holographic maps shifted, stars winking into life, new signals dancing at the edge of perception. Distant lights blinked on displays, some flaring brighter, others flickering uncertainly as the vault's systems tested their reach. Marcus stepped closer, refusing to let her drift away into the enormity of loss. "You're no coward," he said, his voice steady and strong. "You're the bravest person I've met." Zephyra's composure cracked, sorrow spilling through the cracks in her regal mask. "I watched my world die from this room," she whispered, her voice trembling as she stared at the swirling legacy of her people. "I listened to silence. I waited for a sign, and none came." Without hesitation, Marcus pulled her into his arms. She stiffened for an instant, then melted against him, her tears hot against his neck, her breath ragged. In that embrace, Marcus felt her fragility. For all her strength and poise, she seemed smaller now, heartbreakingly real, no longer a myth or a monument, but a woman undone by grief. "You survived," he murmured, holding her close. "You kept hope alive. That matters." Zephyra clung to him, her fingers curling in his shirt, as if afraid he might dissolve with the next shift of the holograms. "But at what cost?" she whispered. "How many lifetimes did I trade for a chance to wake and find only ruins? What happens when the galaxy learns their sovereign has returned? What if I am the last?" Marcus pressed his lips to her hair, breathing in the scent of ozone and wildflowers, grounding himself in the moment. "Then you'll face it with someone at your side," he promised. "You're not alone anymore." Above, Ben's voice drifted faintly through the comms, oblivious to the ancient war now entwined with the fate of humanity. "Hey, Marcus! The readings are spiking. Did you hit something?" Marcus ignored him, tightening his hold. It didn't matter that the greatest discovery in history was a powder keg, or that the world outside might never understand what they had unearthed. Some things, he realized, were worth the risk. Zephyr looked up at him, tears glittering on her lashes. "You are strange, Marcus of Earth. You should be afraid." He smiled, brushing away her tears with a gentle thumb. "I am. But I'd rather be here, afraid with you, than safe and ignorant." The vault's shadows wrapped around them as Zephyr's lips met his. A desperate, grateful kiss, sealing a promise forged in sorrow and hope. In that moment, surrounded by the luminous ghosts of a lost civilization and the awakening pulse of the galaxy, they chose to risk everything for each other. A council of light appeared, holographic figures arrayed in a half-circle before the vault's command dais, each radiating a distinct aura of command and wisdom. Some wore armor gilded with emblems Marcus could not decipher, while others bore robes that shimmered with shifting starlight. Their presence filled the chamber with a weight that pressed against Marcus's chest, a reminder of the scale of Zephyr's world and the war that had shattered it. Zephyra stood tall, her posture regal, but her hand never left Marcus's. He felt the tremor in her fingers, concealed by her mask of authority. The council's eyes fixed upon her, awaiting guidance, hope flickering like embers in their gaze. "Report," Zephyra ordered, her voice unwavering. One figure stepped forward, her projection as crisp as if she stood in flesh and blood. Commander Sierra, broad-shouldered, her holographic insignia pulsing blue, bowed her head. "The Fifth Fleet hides at the edge of the system. We received your signal and are preparing to regroup, but our numbers are few." Zephyra's jaw tightened. "How few?" 14 ships, Sovereign. 2,000 crew. That is all that remains within range." The admission hung in the air, heavy and brutal. Zephyra's eyes closed for a heartbeat, pain flickering across her features before she mastered it and turned grief into strategy. "What of the Dominion?" she asked, voice sharp. Commander Sierra's expression darkened. "Admiral Koss leads the occupation. They believe this sector pacified, but maintain patrols. Your signal will reach them soon, if it has not already." "Then we have little time," Zephyra said, scanning the swirling maps and data streams. "What resources remain in the vault?" "Unknown, Sovereign. Security protocols require your presence to access the deepest layers. We have not attempted to bypass them." Zephyra turned to Marcus, apology and warning mingling in her gaze. The luminous council faded to the periphery, their watchful eyes a silent jury. "This is where the real danger begins," she said quietly. "The knowledge here could change the balance of power in the galaxy, but using it will reveal us to our foes, and not just the Dominion." Marcus's mind spun with the implications. He glanced at the holographic display. 14 ships against an empire, a handful of survivors pressed to the edge of extinction. "What kind of knowledge?" he asked, voice rough with awe and dread. Zephyra's eyes found his, steady and fierce. "The kind that reshaped the galaxy before," she said. "Energy manipulation, mind-machine interfaces, planetary engineering, technologies that make or unmake worlds." Sierra's image interjected, her voice edged with warning. "If you activate these systems, Sovereign, the Dominion will retaliate with everything they have. We cannot match them ship for ship." "If we do nothing, we are outnumbered and outgunned," Zephyr replied, her tone uncompromising. "We have no chance." Marcus glanced between them, the enormity of the moment settling on his shoulders. "And Earth?" he asked, quieter now. "My people don't know about this, but they won't ignore alien fleets in their sky. If you bring the war here—" Zephyra regarded him with a mingling of hope and fear. "Your people achieved what advanced civilizations could not. You reached this vault because you saw possibility where others saw ruin. Perhaps it is time to redefine primitive." She hesitated, then reached for his hand, her touch grounding them both. "Will humanity help reignite a war older than its own history? Will you risk your world for justice, and for us?" Marcus looked at her, feeling the question echo in the silent chamber, as if every ancestor and every ghost was listening for his answer. He squeezed her hand. "When do we begin?" A panel slid open with a low, resonant chime. The vault's armory revealed itself, walls withdrawing to expose racks of weapons and armor, each artifact pulsing with an inner light. Machinery hummed, long dormant systems stirring to assess the new users. Zephyra moved first, her confidence absolute. "Each adapts to its user," she explained, lifting a metallic band and offering it to Marcus. He hesitated, then slipped it over his forearm. The metal was cool for a moment, then warmed, shifting, molding itself to his skin until it felt like a second layer of muscle. In an instant, information crashed through his senses, schematics, tactical readouts, the faint whisper of the armory's AI sinking to his thoughts. "It's reading me," he gasped, staggering as vision after vision flooded his mind. "Synchronizing," Zephyra assured him, donning her own armor. As she did, Iridescent plates shimmered into existence, cascading over her body like liquid metal. The lines of her suit caught the vault's light, magnifying her otherworldly beauty until she seemed carved from starlight and steel. Marcus steadied himself, flexing his arm. "How do I look?" Zephyra asked, a playful glint in her violet eyes despite the tension thickening the air. "Incredible," he replied, voice roughened by awe and desire. "And a little terrifying." "Good," she purred, stepping close. Her armor emitted a soft hum, power thrumming beneath the surface. She pressed her palm to his chest, and their kiss was sudden, electric with possibility, a spark in the dark, both promise and challenge. When they parted, Zephyra's cheeks glowed, her breath unsteady. The tech responds to emotion. Strong feelings boost its power. You should be careful what you awaken. Marcus laughed softly, the sound rolling out of him like thunder in the hush. "Is that why you kissed me?" Zephyra's eyes softened. "Because I've wanted to since I first saw you. So persistent. So alive." She drew him in again, this time slower, deeper, sealing a pact not just of battle, but of hope. Commander Sierra's voice broke through the intimacy, abrupt and urgent. "Dominion scouts inbound. 6 hours. They will not come alone." Zephyra straightened, her mask of command restored with a single breath. "Prepare for launch. Ready the fleet." Her voice rang with authority, the sovereign awakened. She turned to Marcus, her gaze searching his. "This is your last chance. Once we move, Earth will be at risk. The Dominion will not hesitate. My cause will become your people's burden. You do not have to do this." Marcus glanced at the arsenal, weapons that could unmake mountains or shield worlds. He felt fear, but also a wild, unshakable resolve. "My people have a knack for impossible fights. We might surprise you." Zephyra's tone softened, the commander giving way to the woman who had waited centuries for hope. "And us? Can we survive together, Marcus?" He cupped her face, thumb brushing a stray strand of violet hair from her cheek. "I've spent my life studying lost worlds," he said, voice low, certain. "I'd rather help build one." Above, the ground trembled, alien ships slicing through the cloud cover, engines rumbling with the promise of war and deliverance. In the armory's luminous shadows, an archaeologist and a sovereign stood side by side, choosing each other against the odds, preparing to wager everything on the hope that their two worlds could become one. Extraction happened beneath the desert stars, in a silence so profound it felt sacred. Alien craft descended like shadows made of glass and lightning, their hulls bending both sound and light until they materialized only a few meters from the battered research shelter. The sand didn't stir, no wind rose, only a ripple of static in the air, prickling Marcus's skin and sending Ben stumbling backwards, eyes wide. Ben stared, speechless, as fiction became reality right in front of him. The closest vessel settled on the sand, a vessel neither sleek nor brutal, but both, alive with shifting colors, lines that blurred between organic and engineered. A ramp unfolded, weightless and silent. "Marcus," Ben managed at last, voice ragged. "What is this?" Marcus, already moving toward Zephyra, barely looked back. "First contact," he replied, awe and gravity mingling in his tone. Zephyra strode forward, her silhouette limned in the ship's subtle glow, and for a heartbeat her composure faltered. Commander Sierra waited at the foot of the ramp, armored and proud, but as Zephyra approached, centuries melted away. The two women collided in a fierce, tearful embrace, leader and lieutenant, sovereign and friend, survivors reunited at the edge of extinction. Marcus watched, heart swelling. Around them, the Accord's technicians moved with practiced efficiency, scanning human equipment with devices that mapped and cataloged it in pulses of colored light. Anything deemed useful vanished into the ship's holds, the rest was left where it fell, the past already being swept away. Sierra's gaze flicked to Ben, who stood frozen, clutching his battered notebook, as if it could shield him from the impossible. "Your companion complicates matters," Sierra said, her voice edged with command. "He's seen too much," she continued. "That will not be overlooked by the Accord or the Dominion." "He's with us," Marcus insisted, stepping protectively in front of Ben. "Earth deserves to know what's happening. You need allies more than you need secrets." Zafira nodded, decisive. "Agreed. Humanity has earned a seat at the table." She extended her hand to Ben, who hesitated only a second before grasping it, his expression shifting from fear to resolve. Inside, the Accord ship felt alive. Its corridors glowed softly, walls pulsing in time with their footsteps. The floor adjusted to each step, responding to gait and weight, cushioning and guiding, as if the vessel itself welcomed them aboard. The air was crisp, tinged with a metallic sweetness Marcus couldn't place. "It's beautiful," Ben whispered, trailing his fingers along a panel that rippled under his touch. "Aesthetics aid efficiency," Sierra explained, leading them deeper. "Form and function are one." They entered a chamber ringed by windows. Earth's curve glimmered beyond the glass, blue and white against the ink of space. Zephyra took her place at the command dais, her authority unchallenged, Sierra at her right, Marcus and Ben standing behind. "Where are we headed?" Marcus asked as the ship lifted without so much as a tremor. Zephyra's fingers danced across the controls, holograms blooming in the air. "A rendezvous point beyond your moon. The Fifth Fleet waits there, what remains of the Accord's might." Tactical displays shimmered overhead, red icons marking Dominion ships probing the solar system, their patrol patterns cautious but relentless. "They know I'm awake," Zephyra observed, voice steady, "but they can't pinpoint us. The Dominion sensors search for advanced entry points, warp signatures, phasic breaches. Not this." She gestured to Marcus and Ben, a wry smile tugging at her lips. "Because we came through a primitive dig," Marcus guessed, comprehension dawning. "Exactly. Your methods outwitted advanced sensors. No one expects a sovereign to be freed by stone and sweat." Zephyra's eyes sparkled with something that was almost gratitude and admiration. As they cleared the moon's shadow, the rendezvous unfolded. 14 battered ships arrayed in a defensive shell, hulls scored by ancient battles, their crews already standing at attention. The fleet was a testament to loyalty and desperation, scarred but not broken. "They adore her," Ben whispered, watching the way every Accord officer saluted as Zephyra's image filled their screens. "They should," Marcus replied softly. "She sacrificed everything. She held hope for 6 centuries." The briefing was grim. Zephyra stood before her remaining captains, her voice unwavering as Sierra projected the Dominion's occupation grids. 15 star systems held in a stranglehold, Dominion banners flying over once free worlds. Their numbers were overwhelming, dozens of capital ships, fleets of drones, entire armies. "Conventional tactics won't work," Sierra said, her tone clinical. "Admiral Koss is impatient, but he has overwhelming force. He'll overcommit to crush us, but not before making examples of any rebel stronghold." Marcus's mind raced, ancient history and modern war converging. The Dominion's grip was vast, but spread thin. Their arrogance left gaps. "What if you don't fight them directly?" he offered. "Act like insurgents. Hit and vanish, disrupt supplies, sabotage their networks, stir up unrest. Make them chase shadows while you rally support." Sierra's eyes narrowed, considering. "You think some of our people are waiting for a signal? Hidden cells, blending in?" Marcus nodded. "You survived by hiding. Others might have too. If you make the Dominion hunt ghosts, they'll overextend. And Earth becomes your secret ally. The Dominion overlooks this planet, thinks it primitive. But it's full of unconventional thinkers. We do more with less." Ben found his voice at last. You mean to turn Earth into a resistance hub? If Earth wants it, Marcus said, glancing at Zephyra. But the Accord needs every edge it can get. Zephyra moved closer, the stars reflected in her violet eyes. You're proposing a rebellion, she said softly, using human expertise in asymmetric warfare, turning the weaknesses of the Dominion into their downfall. I'm proposing hope, Marcus answered, voice rough with conviction. And giving the Dominion an enemy they can't predict. We've done more with less before. Their kiss was fierce, full of promise and uncertainty, and the weight of two civilizations. It was a declaration, not just of love, but of intent, a vow that whatever came next, they would face it together. One issue, Syrah said, her tone as precise as ever. Earth doesn't know any of this. Your governments, your people, they are unprepared for the galaxy. Leave that to us, Marcus replied. Humanity thrives on the impossible. We'll find a way to reach them and to prepare them for what's coming. Zephyra smiled, her regal mask slipping to reveal the hope beneath. I believe you, Marcus of Earth. Together, we may do the impossible yet again. Outside, above the shining blue planet, the Accord fleet stood ready. The Dominion pressed at the edges of the system, unaware that resistance was already blooming in the shadows. As the ship angled toward the rendezvous, Marcus stood at Zephyra's side, Ben at his shoulder, and Earth gleamed below. A world on the brink of learning it was not alone. The World Council convened in chaos, a tide of voices swelling and crashing against one another, the old order fracturing beneath the weight of the impossible. The great chamber was a mosaic of flags and faces, delegates shouting as live feeds displayed alien ships gliding above the clouds and hovering just beyond the blue arc of the horizon. The news channels cycled through the images, fear and awe mingling in every headline. The world was not alone, and the universe was not waiting for permission to come knocking. Director Naomi Yates of the freshly minted Office of Extraterrestrial Affairs stood at the dais, her posture unyielding. We are sheltering a fugitive alien sovereign and her resistance, she announced, voice steady despite the uproar. Her image was flanked by the projections of alien vessels, their hulls shining with impossible colors. Behind her, Marcus's face appeared, beamed in from the Accord flagship that now orbited Earth. He watched the gathering unravel, feeling the magnitude of history pressing down on his shoulders. Dr. Carter, you've put humanity in jeopardy. How do we know these aliens aren't invaders? Demanded the Secretary General, her words slicing through the clamor as her gaze bored into Marcus's projected eyes. They had centuries to invade if they wanted, Marcus replied, gesturing to a tactical display showing Dominion ships prowling at the edge of the system, red motes circling like sharks. The real threat is those hunting them. The Dominion's already here. They're the Empire. The Accord is what's left of their resistance. Zephyra stood behind Marcus, her silhouette regal, but her eyes betrayed the strain, tension etched in every line of her face. She said nothing, letting Marcus stand as the bridge between two worlds. On the flag deck, Commander Syrah's voice was low and urgent in Zephyra's ear. Dominion patrols are adapting. They're rerouting probes, analyzing our jump patterns. They'll find us soon. Zephyra's jaw set. Then we move. Take the fleet to fallback coordinates. Marcus's voice, quieter, cut in. And Earth? What about the planet? Zephyra's reply came with sorrow threaded through every syllable. Earth must choose its path. I can't endanger my people for a world that hasn't decided its own fate. In the council chamber, the announcement of the Accord fleet's movement sent the delegates into a frenzy. Some called for surrender, citing self-preservation. Others bellowed for resistance, waving flags and invoking every hard-won freedom in human history. They're terrified, Ben said over the comm, his voice taut. First contact, and it's a war. No one's ready for this. Marcus felt the pressure building, the burden of the choice placed on every human heart. Director Yates, humanity has always risen to impossible challenges. This is our chance to stand for something greater than fear. The universe is watching. And if we lose? The Secretary General pressed. Marcus's image flickered, his voice unwavering. Then we lose for a cause worth fighting for. If we win, we join something bigger than ourselves. We matter. The argument was cut short by an intrusion no one could ignore. The Dominion seized every screen, every broadcast frequency. Admiral Koss, his face chiseled and cold, appeared before the world. People of Earth, you shelter criminals. Surrender Zephyra and her rebels, and your world will be spared. The threat was absolute. 12 hours to decide, or Earth would suffer the fate of 100 conquered worlds. Zephyra's image joined Marcus's on the global feed, her bearing proud, voice ringing with conviction. People of Earth, I am Zephyra of the Ninth Accord. I offer you the choice my people never had. Submit to fear, or stand with us and show that freedom endures. This is your moment. The council vote was frantic, but clear. Amidst the shouting and the pounding of gavels, the decision was made, a majority for resistance. Earth, for the first time in its history, committed to an interstellar war. The Accord fleet, battered but resolute, now had a world behind it. 14 ships against hundreds, Syrah remarked, her tone grim. The display of enemy forces was overwhelming. Dominion dreadnoughts, cruisers, swarms of drones. Numbers don't win wars, Zephyra replied, her voice calm. Courage and ingenuity do. We survived because we adapted. That is what will save us now. Marcus studied the tactical projections, the Dominion's formation, the patterns in their aggression. They'll try to isolate us, minimize their own losses. It's what every empire tries. What would you do? Zephyra asked, hope flickering behind her steady gaze. Stop thinking like an admiral. Think like a rebel. Use what Earth gives us. The gravity well, the radiation belts, the debris fields. Force them in close, where their numbers mean less. The hours that followed were frantic, a rush of code, hardware, and desperate ingenuity. Human and alien engineers worked side by side. Accord quantum traps were disguised as orbital debris, invisible to Dominion sensors. Earth's satellites linked to Accord weapons, and neural armor was adapted for guerrilla tactics. Ben reported from a monitoring station, excitement breaking through his nerves. It's working. Their targeting algorithms are breaking down. They're confused. On the observation deck, Zephyra found Marcus staring at the world below, its lights flickering through the cloud cover. Any regrets? She asked quietly. He took her hand, the familiar warmth grounding him. About finding you? Never. About dragging Earth into this? It's complicated. Wars choose us as often as we choose them, Zephyra replied, fingers entwined with his. And us? Marcus asked, searching her eyes. After this? She faced him, vulnerable for the first time since the desert. I love you, she said. Your stubbornness, your insight, your hope. You make me feel alive again. Their kiss was urgent, desperate, full of longing and hope and the shared terror of what was coming. It was a promise, sealed on the eve of battle, as enemy fleets gathered beyond the moon. The assault began in a blaze of light and silence. Koss led his armada into orbit, confident, his voice taunting the Accord over open channels. The quantum traps detonated. Dominion ships vanished in silent flashes, caught in space-time snares they never anticipated. Impossible! Koss roared across the comms. These primitives! No, Zephyra replied coldly, her image cast across his bridge. They have something you lost. Adaptability. The battle raged. Earth satellites became targeting relays for Accord plasma. Human guerrillas, armored in neural mesh, ambushed Dominion troops in the ruins of Santiago, Mumbai, and Johannesburg. Marcus fought at Zephyra's side, his vision filled with targeting data and adrenaline. "Behind you!" Zephyra called, and Marcus spun, firing a hybrid rifle, dropping a Dominion drone with perfect timing. "They keep underestimating us," Marcus said, reloading as Accord fighters streaked overhead. "Their mistake," Zephyra replied, moving with lethal grace, her armor glowing with each victory. The tide turned as Syrah's battered fleet emerged from the asteroid belt, masked by mining debris. Dominion reserves, expecting a head-on charge, were flanked and surrounded. Hybrid weapons, Earth's targeting, Accord plasma, crippled Koss's flagship. In his final moments, the Admiral's words were disbelief, not rage. "How?" Marcus answered, voice weary but triumphant. "Survival belongs to those who adapt." News of Earth's victories spread like wildfire. On a dozen worlds, old Accord banners reappeared. The Dominion's grip crumbled, systems rising in revolt. Zephyra reclaimed her throne, but the new Accord was not an empire. It was a federation. Earth was honored as the world that proved freedom's value. Marcus walked the palace gardens, lush and wild, watching Zephyra debate with delegates from a dozen liberated worlds. Her laughter rang out, bright and alive, her crown glinting in the sunlight. "Regrets?" she asked, joining him beneath a flowering arch. He smiled, steady again. "About marrying an alien queen who changed the galaxy? Never." "I'm not alien anymore," Zephyra said, drawing him close. "The Accord recognizes dual citizenship. You're as much my people as I am yours." He looked out at the garden, where human and alien children played, diplomats traded ideas, and hope bloomed in every corner. "Our people," he corrected, and she laughed, the sound a promise. Their wedding was held beneath Earth's stars, a tapestry of traditions, human and Accord woven together. When Marcus kissed his queen, the moment was broadcast across worlds that had learned to hope again because an archaeologist refused to give up, and a sovereign waited for someone who believed. In a universe where empires rose and fell, love proved stronger than conquest, persistence more enduring than power, and hope the most dangerous force of all. Humanity's isolation was over. Its destiny had just begun. Our story ends here. If you'd like to support us, you can use the Super Thanks button right under the video to leave a tip. It truly helps our team improve the quality of our work. We're grateful to each and every subscriber for being with us. Make sure you subscribe, press the like button, and tell us in the comments what stood out to you the most in this video. Your feedback means a lot to our team. You'll discover many more captivating stories on our channel. See you in the next one.